I am troubleshooting a backflow valve today in my yard. It is a Watts 1-inch backflow prevention valve, and it's not very old. I've only had it a few years, and it acted up in warm weather, so no freeze damage or anything. My previous backflow valve was a Febco that lasted many years, never had any issues with it. So the problem here is it not just leaks, it comes out like a little water cannon. So let me show you. You see that? So, and it's digging a hole to China there. So I got to figure out what is wrong in here. So I'm gonna basically take off this top, these little valves here. If you take the plastic caps off, you can release the pressure in here with these screws, with a flathead screwdriver. So I'm gonna try to figure out what's wrong, because this shouldn't be failing. It's not that old of a unit, so we'll see how easy it is. Okay, so took this apart. It's real easy. There are these 4 bolts and a 1/2-inch wrench. We'll take those off. You take these little caps off, and these are pressure release valves, I think, with a screwdriver, but I didn't there was no pressure. They had been sitting a bit since my last video clip, so there was no pressure on there. And basically the way this works inside is there's a spring valve component on this side, the input, and a spring valve component here on the output. This top comes off, and you slide this plastic thing out, and there's one, if you can look, there's one in there, and there's one in there. This one, by the way, on the incoming side is a pain in the ass. I pulled both of them out. I looked at them. They didn't appear cracked. The rubber seals didn't look bad. I will say that this one's a pain in the ass to get back in. You got to really shove it in there without breaking it, so this will slide in. This only slides in one way. You'll figure it out. The flat end goes here on this side. There's a lip right there, so it keeps you from putting it in upside down. So it just slides in like that. Couldn't figure out what's wrong, but then I flipped over, hold on a second. I flipped over this top, and you can see that moved around. There's a washer in here, and hold on, crap, hold on a second. There is a washer in here, and it's a little tiny washer, but obviously that's broke, right? It broke. I don't know how it broke. It's not that old, but hopefully that's a cheap part I can find online. And it's hard to believe that little washer could be causing this. Well, we'll find out. So I'm gonna order this little washer, put it back on, and if it fixes my problem, I'm done. This is probably the cheapest I can get away with a fix like this. I was expecting maybe something more expensive, but I don't know if that'll fix it. So let's get this part, put it back together, and see what happens. Okay, here's an update fixing my Watts 1-inch backflow prevention valve. It's a 009 M2 model. I'll put that on the video somewhere later. Anyway, so I got it on the bench. So remember, this is the O-ring that looks bad. As I look at this device, so it sits in the unit like this in the center, and I can see as I look closely, there's a tiny hole there, and there's a tiny hole there, and that's most likely when the washer was broke and leaking. It's forcing water through the top here. So when it goes in this unit, it's sitting like this when it's assembled. But you can see right in here, it looks like water can get in through the top there. And when this is sealed normally, so if you put the O-ring like right on there, you can see how that O-ring normally would sit there and fit into this brass top down in there. So I looked up parts for God what. So stay away from vendors. I already bought this, but like I don't like it when manufacturers like you can't buy this little cheap O-ring washer. You have to buy like a kit from Watts. And if you go online, like even like Amazon, like the cheapest I've seen is like 50 something. It's ridiculous. It's like this and like this rubber. It's like this. It's like stuff you don't even need. And even if you did need it, it's way overpriced. So I was like, screw that. I'm not going to pay 50 bucks. I'm going to go try to find an O-ring washer because first of all, this shouldn't have failed anyway. This thing's only a few years old. So what I did was I went to my pool supply. So I'm going to call a shout out here to Leslie's. I don't know how common this size is, but I took my old O-ring and I laid it right over this new O-ring, and you can see that's about a perfect fit. Diameter, the thickness. So I'm going to share this part number, 60428. It's for a Polaris O-ring. I don't know where that goes. I have a Polaris. I don't know where it goes somewhere. But like it appears this little O-ring, which by the way I picked up for like $3, 3 or 4. It's like really cheap compared to like a whole kit. So I'm going to try to put that in here. And hopefully this fixes my problem. And also just to make sure, I wanted to point out, where's my... If you take a paper clip and you put it in the hole here, you can see this emphasizes, do you see that? That's where that little jet of water was shooting out, like it, you know, because when I saw it broke, it didn't like dribble out. It was like shooting out like a like a high pressure washer, and so that's probably where that O-ring. So let's try to fit it on there and see what happens. Okay, I might have claimed victory a little too early there. I put this O-ring on, and it's a little big, just slightly, but that's definitely not it should be snug, and it's not snug on there. But I am going to try to put it back together anyway and see if it fixes it, because if it can just kind of squeeze in there, I don't know, we'll see. It's going to be hard to find an exact match, but instead of paying 50 bucks for a rebuild kit, I'm willing to give it a try. So let me assemble this, put it back on the pump, on the valve, and see what happens. All right, folks, looks like I got lucky. I will say I had to assemble it twice. So the first time that O-ring was a little off, and that tiny little O-ring, God, it makes the water just gush out. But I seated it in the brass thing a second time, gave it a go, and here the valve is on. It's not leaking anymore. Here's the other side, so I could turn. Did you hear the? I don't know if you can hear that. Like the water's going through. So now during the winter, we're in the winter time now. So usually I drain it. So here you can hear the water. So water's running through it, and it's not coming out the bottom like a water cannon. So what I'm going to do now is just shut this off. In the winter, let the pressure off here, drain it. I have little drain things down here too, that's extra, but that's not what this video is about. The video is fixing this stupid, so that little O-ring caused that leak. So don't pay 50 whatever bucks for that kit. Get that little O-ring from the pool supply company I showed you, and you'll be set. Good luck.